It's classic huge confluence zone and just a very broad amorphous upper trough moving in from the west. No really distinct one short wave big jet coming in here. It was just sort of a long succession. I liked it. Okay. 2003, 2004, it was okay. Considering the good winters we had, this one was actually pretty good. And it was mainly good because of December and January. Great early season snowstorm, December 5th through 7th. Again, eastern New England, what was it, Peabody, 35 inches or something like that? I feel better. And then in January was the coldest month in New England since February 1934. That's heavy duty. So here's the snowfall distribution from December 5th through 7th. Northwest suburbs of DC, northwest of Philadelphia, through New York, up into New England. New England, of course, getting the jackpot. An interesting surface reflection simply because it actually wound up being a succession of different systems rather than one cyclone. There was sort of an initial low that passed off, kind of moved off slowly. There was another upper level system moving east. The secondary, another low formed further west, and that became the more intense storm for New England. So it was not what I'd call a classic case. This was sort of a multifaceted case. And later in the month, there was this system off the East Coast. It was basically snow changing terrain, but a big snow across the interior of New England. So December actually had quite a bit. And then came January. January did not have any particular huge widespread storm, but it was so amazingly cold that we had a whole bunch of systems that, if I'm not mistaken, I think were mostly south of New England. I don't think you got very much. Oh. What? Oh, North Carolina. Gee, and I thought you were going to be New England. Right. Right, well, that was the coldest month since February 34, and that means unless you are 75 years old and your memory was really good in the crib, this is the coldest month. And with that coldest month, there were some very interesting little developments with that scattered across the area. So I thought, between December and January, that was actually pretty interesting. It's global warming era, and you have the coldest month in God knows how long. But of course, that I think was probably the end of it. All right, then we go, now, great winter. Now, unless you were in DC, in DC, it was a good winter, but it was a very frustrating winter, and I'm glad I wasn't there. And I remember forecasting, maybe you Wes, I remember thinking how snow is going to start really hard in DC. It's going to snow really hard, and then an hour and a half later, it's going to stop, and that's it. And watching what you talked about with the dreaded dry slot. The dreaded dry slot is actually a wonderful thing because you need the dry slot. It's a sign of where the jet's coming in, and to somewhere in that dry slot it will fill back in. Some areas it won't. So there are some areas where that dry slot comes in, you're done. In some areas the dry slot will get very close, but it never really makes it.
It helps you with the destabilization in CSI and getting the bandage going too. So it's a real important feature.
So DC, you lose. Baltimore, you lose. Philly, kind of won. Anything north of there, you won big. This first storm here occurred in an immensely warm December. But it was the same storm that dumped like snow in southeast Texas. It was 1899 in Brownsville, foot of it in Victoria. Then came the blizzard. I'm not sure, it may not be the sixth snowiest, it might be the fifth. I'm not, fifth.
I think it's fourth or fifth.
Fourth or fifth. Okay. My PowerPoint kind of died. I couldn't correct things. But it was, from what I understand, the snowiest winter on record on Cape Cod. And then, following the storm, there just seemed to be a whole slew of other systems following it. And sort of interestingly, there was a period, I remember, look how mild the entire winter between December and February was. I'm sure March was below normal, but this was an incredibly flip-floppy winter. December was unbelievable. January started out as way above normal, but the second half of the month was way below normal, and January I think came out to be mostly like average when it was a spectacular month. And it probably, I'm not sure, but I think it did the same thing in February.
Like every 2 weeks.
Right, so instead, you've got the signal that, oh, nothing really happened. But when it got cold, it was a great winter. I said so. And here are just a few examples. Here's that December 26th, 27th storm, really clobbered Cape Cod area. This is a little sort of a warm advection event. This was sort of like a December 5th, 2002, February 7th, 2003. Not very impressive low pressure system, good high. And then there was a really complex, horrible to forecast system back on February 28th and March 1st. And I remember this little, well, it wasn't a little system, but it didn't dump a whole lot of snow, but it deepened to like 960 something millibars, hit during a time of day, and I'm sure some of you remember, it was probably an incredible rush hour with this storm. So there may have only been a few inches of snow, but it was probably the most paralyzing few inches of snow you can imagine. So going past the book, this is not in the book, January 22, 23, 2005, they've done some recalculations of what people reported, and I'm sure it'll create some problems. Some of these numbers have been toned down a little bit. But when you get 25 to 32 inches of snow, whether it's 36, 32, it was a good one. When you're gusting to 70 miles per hour plus, your temperature's dropping to 10, I got no problem with that kind of stuff. No. So here's the dry slot area, and here's where the snow started to wrap around, and the dry slot had moved in, but then it wrapped around, and basically from central and southern New Jersey north. This was a good one, and again, dry slot looked like in portions of Connecticut as well.
You have higher maps of that?
Yeah. What's it? I heard something disgusting. Or...
No, the AVN on that storm, it took what GFS said, it took them to within, I think, 1 or 2 forecast periods to even have more than a quarter of an inch precipitation for this area. It was woefully horrible.
You're talking about early in the
up until like the storm hit on Saturday afternoon, late Saturday afternoon, Saturday night for Boston.
Yeah.
And the Friday morning forecast is still nothing. Of course, the 12Z came out, and I remember telling everybody at work, look out, we're going to get 3 feet of snow. And they were saying, no.
Well, that's actually a good recollection for me to kind of... No, it's good for me to have a recollection. I don't really remember that. But sort of take, in the medium range, maybe it wasn't all that good a forecast.
The Euro had it for 7 days.
Well, wait.
Yeah.
What's the euro?
The Euro.
What's the Euro?
No,
It's the Euro. Oh, duh.
Well,
Did I say that?
The Euro had that for 7. Actually, that winter was when the European Center started running the European out to 10 days.